gaming the system a little bit. Yes, I drink my kombucha in a flute. Alright. Hey everyone, Shawnee here. So thank you so much for clicking on my video. If you weren't here last time, I discussed the reasons why I decided to write a business plan. And I call it my loosey-goosey business plan because it's basically a rough draft. I just answered a bunch of questions and kind of worked some things out for myself. And I do have other things I need to work on and try to figure out, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. I decided that I'm going to fund this whole entire thing out of my own pocket, so I'm bootstrapping this whole thing. And so I'm only using my business plan as a kind of a guide for me and to keep me in line and keep my user in focus when I start building things out. And in this video, I decided to name it the Pre-Launch Buzz, or creating the pre-launch buzz. And what I mean by that is I'm basically going to create my app's landing page. And in this video, I'll discuss kind of my setup and the reasons why I'm doing it this way. You don't necessarily have to do it exactly how I'm doing it because there's many ways of creating an app landing page. I mean, for real, there's so many different ways. Well, there's really two ways. You can do it yourself, or you can buy a package through like a third party, for example, like Squarespace, where you can buy a template from them, buy your domain name from them, and they host everything, and it's really simple, and you can edit their template and stuff like that. Now, the reason why I didn't do that is because I want greater control over the template, and secondly, I manage my own blog, like the back end of my own blog, as well as a local business that I volunteer for. Actually, hosting static websites is super easy on GitLab, and you can have multiple static websites on GitLab, unlike GitHub, which you now apparently have to pay, if I recall. Like, they don't even offer the free one anymore. But on the bright side, GitLab is way better. It basically has to do with like how you set up like your groups, because if you have different groups or different projects, which I do, you just create a different group and each group can have its own website. So gaming the system a little bit, but it works for me. I only have 2 websites right now that I'm hosting, and then this will be my third. So that's the reason why I decided to go the template route, the HTML template route. It'll just be easier for me to make edits when I need to, and I do everything there. So why not do this here too? And I'm pretty comfortable with, building websites. I haven't built a lot of websites, but not that. I mean, that's not my focus. When I first started coding, it was my focus. So web development was like, oh, I wanted to get into web development because I thought it was the bee's knees. And now I'm just like, eh. So, I mean, I still have that knowledge. It's just not the thing that I do. Like, I will actually prefer to edit a template any day of the week than to actually build it from scratch. It's just too much work. So on that note, I decided to use a bootstrap template that's free that I found on GitHub. And it has everything that I need now and everything that I will need once I get the app on the App Store, which is nice. So there's some things that I've commented out because I don't need it right away, but I will eventually. So that's really nice that it's there once I need it. And that's the whole point, was to use a template that kind of had already the building blocks there already. And the only thing I had to do was edit it. And so because I don't build websites as much as I used to, I still need to reference things. So I have a book that I like. I bought this a while back ago, which is HTML and CSS. This is a really good, and it's really good, and also it comes in color, which is nice. So like the code is in color, and it was a good investment. I spent like $20 used. And it really hasn't changed much. And if there is some changes, that's we have, the interwebs for, right? I've done that. Another thing I've done is I bought my domain, which took a long time to figure out because I had to decide on like my app's name, and I just was throwing things out there and some things weren't sounding right, and then I would throw it out to other people I know and they're like, that doesn't sound like good. And eventually I found a name, got the .com part, which is really exciting because I didn't want to do .app or .io or any of that stuff. I was like, I wanted the .com. And I've pretty much decided on the design. I'm still kind of working out the color scheme. I do know like 2 colors I definitely am going to use, but the other ones are kind of like in the air. I've already decided what font I'm going to use. Actually, I'm using 2 fonts, and they're free. And they're also on Google Fonts, so I can easily port the fonts into my website, which is great. So it makes my website super lightweight, really fast, which is what I wanted. And then the fonts that I found or I'm using, I actually got from fontsquirrel.com, and which was exciting because it was like, yay, everything's uniform, the style is uniform. So that's really important for me, is have uniformity. So I did that. What else did I do? Oh, I'm working on my mock-up. I worked on a lot of it already, but there's some things that I really didn't do or things that I need to really tweak because I haven't decided again on the color scheme. So the structure is there, it's just not very pretty. It's taken a lot of time. I am about 2 or 3 days past my own set deadline, but I'm having issues with my mock-ups, and I'm also trying to figure out how to create GIFs out of them because I feel like I want like a couple of the images to be GIFs, so it kind of shows how it works. So I'm trying to work that out, and so it's made me a little bit behind. But my website, the copy or the content is there. And to kind of describe how I edit a template, in case you're curious, I actually use Safari's web inspector to edit my sections and to find errors and warnings and fix things, because the template I found actually had 1 warning and an error, and I was able to fix both of them. But it's mainly because I look at it from the web developer, console, and then I will make my edits. I actually do that to also fix things. Well, obviously fix things, but to make the edits that I need to make, I depend on it a lot. And then I just use a plain old text editor. My favorite is BB Edit, because I can have multiple windows, and I love it's very clean design for me, so it really helps me out. So the next thing I need to do is I'm also going to set up my app's Twitter profile, which I haven't done before, so that's going to be fun. I'll give you updates on how that's going on my next video. Another thing that I did, because I'm doing all of this myself, is that I have to make basically a contact form, but I'm going to be using FormSpree, and I'm using their free account, which is temporary. And the reason why I say temporary is because I don't know how many users or people, like how many customers or users I'm going to have. So I'm just using their free account right now, and eventually, depending on like how many people sign up and the traffic or whatnot, I will actually pay for, I think, the basic subscription they have, and at that point I can link my FormSpree account to my MailChimp account, so it'll be easier for me to manage my subscribers and users and things like that. So at this point, that's what I'm using for my form. And then analytics, I wanted to mention this because it's kind of important to me to mention this. Now, you can go for a free, Google Analytics thing if you want to, and I've done it in the past. So I know enough about web development to be like super dangerous. It was important for me to use a product that I can still track like my traffic going to my websites, but also respect privacy because that's super important to me. And it makes it super easy. I'm going to use Fathom for my analytics. Now, it's not free, and I was debating on whether I should use them or not, but I prefer to go ahead and just suck it up and pay for it. I think it's like $14 a month. Don't quote me on that. I'll probably put it up here somewhere about how expensive it is. But the thing is, I'm going to be using it for not just this website, but also for my blog as well, because I have actually disconnected the Google Analytics to my blog a long time ago. I want to say about a year ago. And a lot of it had to do with having a cookie notice, because you have to have a cookie notice on your website to be GDPR compliant. And adding a cookie notice is just way too much work. So I'm just going to go ahead and pay for it. Knowing that I'm going to be using it for more than just one website, I feel it's a justified expense. So that's what I'm going to do. And I want to decrease the amount of scripts that are following my poor users around, right? Another thing I'm doing is I'm creating my own graphics. Like everything for my app, I'm designing myself, from the logo to icons, buttons, you name it, I'm doing it. Like I said, I'm bootstrapping this thing to death, all right? Another thing I want to kind of put out there is, because I kind of am doing a jack of all trades here, I am using Sketch for that. I am pretty familiar with Sketch and it's pretty awesome. And then for things that I'm not sure about, because I know Sketch well enough, I actually work with Illustrator at work. So I actually will look at Illustrator tutorials for like creating graphics and things and then translating that to Sketch. So I am using a couple tutorials, and I'll have those tutorials down below if you're interested. They're really cool, and it's helping me create patterns, and then just certain things. So I'll put that down below because I'm not super like creative in that sense. I'm not an artist, but I do know enough to, do what I need to do. So I'll put that down below. So another thing I also did is I wrote out my copy. Now, that is market lingo for the content in your website. It's like the sales content. That's how I kind of put it. So I create the copy, and it is tough. It took me, I want to say 2 days on and off, because I did it partially on the weekend and then partially on, it took me a weekend and a couple of days after work to actually really get it going. And the thing is another thing I factored in was to take time away from the copy to like have a fresh eyes to look at it again and really think about like how I worded things and the structure and stuff like that. So I recommend doing that if you're writing your own copy for your website, is to really take time to do it. And I did. and here's a quick fact: 75% of your site traffic will leave after seeing your homepage. Like, as soon as they see the first part, they'll typically bounce. So I wanted to get this right as much as possible. And a way that I did that is I found a really great article by Julian Shapiro, and I found his article on Indie Hackers. I am signed up for Indie Hackers, and it's been super helpful. I mean, I found this really great article that I used to actually create my landing page, kind of guide me through the process. And so a very important part of creating your copy is, increasing desire. So you want people to desire your product, and you want to decrease how much work they have to do that, and then also decrease confusion. You want to make sure that what they're reading makes complete sense, that's clear, not full of jargon, and it's concise, very concise. In the article, he covers how to structure your landing page, which I found very very, helpful. And then also kind of like incorporating like design and certain things. So my landing page and the layout that I'm using right now, because I don't have my app on the App Store, is I have my header is really concise. It's no greater than 10 words long. Then I have my hero subheader, which is about a sentence, and that it just explains what the app does in a little bit more detail. And then I have my call to action right underneath that. In this case, I just have my sign up button because I don't have my app on the App Store. But once I do, I'll change that button to a link for my app in the App Store. So once I get my app, out there, I'll change that button to actually link to the download page of my app. Another thing I did was I added the features and objections, which I'm not sure if I'm going to do objections for mine, but I did features kind of insinuating objections or hinting at them. Maybe I'll add that. I haven't decided yet. I can still change it. It's not like set in stone. But I chose 3 because you can have up to 6. I thought 6 was a little too much, and I could get to a point in 3. And what my features consist of is one value proposition header, and that is just a really short title of what the value brings to the user. And I kept it about 3 words long. Sometimes it's only 2. And then underneath that, I have the supporting statements of the value it brings. And I did a version of bullets. They're about 2 sentences long. So I kept it really short. And then right next to the proposition, I have an image of the feature. So in some cases, I'll just have just a plain image. And then finally, at the end of the page, I have another sign up call to action, like sign up, subscribe. And then I also have a form to send me a message. And his article didn't recommend doing that, but I was thinking, that actually would be a really good, thing to add. And if no one uses it, it's fine. It's there once I get my app on the App Store, and people can, email me there, so I don't have to necessarily build it out. It's already built. And that form is also, the back end is form spree as well. So that's that. So my homework is to get feedback on my landing page. This is terrifying, but I need to do it. I need to get out of my comfort zone. So I have 6 questions for you, my YouTube audience. I'm also going to ask these questions on Indie Hacker as well. So basically, what I would like you to do is review my landing page. If you can answer these 6 questions for me, that'd be great. You don't have to. Question number 1, conversion. Are you willing to hand over your credit card and sign up right now? If not, what would you need to see to get to that point? Number 2, interest. Rate how well the page sustained your interest on a scale of 1 to 10. What would you suggest I rewrite or redesign to help it better sustain your interest? Number 3, clarity. What's unclear about my page? What unanswered questions are you left with, if any? 4, expansion. Did you find something awesome that you want more details on? If so, let me know what that might have been. Brevity. If you had to delete half of the page's imagery and copy, what would it be? And then finally, 7, disbelief. What triggered your untrue? That's spammy. It sounds like something a used car salesman would say. What triggered you? Let me know. All right, so that is all I have for this week. Next week, review what I got back from everyone, the feedback I got, and what I changed, if anything. Maybe it came out perfect. I don't know. Here's for hoping, though. Not really. So thank you so much for clicking on my video. If anything you find that you like, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to. It's down below. Yeah. Okay. So, till next time, friends.